in 1805, and he left the city and worked his way along the south side of the Shannon River. And I can pick him up in documents in County Kerry, just on the other side of the County Limerick border, in the mid-1820s. And he was living with his brother Joseph Burke O'Shaughnessy, and they were tenant farmers. They did not own land. They weren't allowed to own land. They rented from an English landlord named Richard Hines, and he stayed in that townland of Carhoona Keneally until he left for the States in 1849. His first child, he married Ellen Hurley from a neighboring townland of Kilgarvan, and they were married at Ballybunion, which was the parish church for Ellen, in 1839, and then they moved into Carhoona Keneally. Their first child was Anastasia. I think she's right there. Anastasia.
Yeah, bottom right.
That was their first child. Then they had a few more children who died in Ireland. There was a Jerry who died as an infant, and a Joseph who died as an infant. And then they had Michael O'Shaughnessy in 1846, and Michael was our Civil War veteran. He came to the States and had a long career in the military, was an honorable discharged after the Civil War, and lived and died in Chicago, and he's buried there. We've been to his grave.
And he bought these graves.
Yeah.
He purchased these graves.
And Michael bought these graves, I'll tell you, on the occasion of his mother's death in 1881. Oh. And then there was another daughter born in Ireland after Michael, Nora, in 1848, and this is in the height of the famine. And I think that's when they decided they'd had enough after her death, so that in 1849 they left and came to the States. And they came and met up with their brother who had left earlier, Joseph Burke, in Corning, New York. And Joseph Burke was working with the railroads and with the canal work, and both Jerry and Joseph worked together for the same company called Scott and Wells Company. They both worked for the same company. We've not been able to find much information about that company. But the railroad was just getting going, and the canals were starting to become less effective as a means of transport. So Joseph stayed in Corning and has a big family and a big burial plot at St. Mary's in Corning that we visited. But Jerry decided to move on and moved west, ended up coming to Crestline, and then where you can find him in the census. He did have a daughter born in New York, 1850, Nora, who went on to marry a man named McCarthy, and they lived in Fort Wayne.
Oh yeah.
And then
actually, she's up on the hill in St. Joseph.
She's on the hill in St. Joseph. And then Jerry the Dam, we'll call Jerry 2. This would be Jerry 1. Jerry the Dam was born in 1853 in Delaware. And then Joseph Burke, who is named for the Burke family. The Burke name kind of wants to translate its way through the generations in our family. He was one of their sons. And then later on, the last child they had was Aunt Mamie, who's buried up on the hill too. And so Anastasia married Mr. Coffey. They met up in Cardington. They had a whole lot of children. I don't know of any Coffeys that are buried here. We've been unable to find any evidence of that. But there might be some babies who are buried on this plot. We just don't have any record of. And then we've got Joseph Burke married a lady named Elizabeth Dell. And they had several children, but the whole family died in a relatively short period of time. I think Joseph and Lizzie Dell died from tuberculosis, and their children died young, and I don't really know why they died.
There was a lot before Jerry the Dam banned all the wells. There was a lot of.
Ah, okay, that answers. Got that. Yep, got that.
But the first graves here were on the event of Ellen Hurley's death. Ellen died in 1881. Her Jerry 1 had died in 1870 and was buried over near Columbus State at the Catholic Cemetery over there. And in 1881, when Ellen died, Michael, her son, bought this whole plot of graves, 12 graves, and they buried Ellen, and her grandchild,
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann, the same day. And Mary Ellen brought the clipping from the newspaper,
Jeez.
the Columbian,
Catholic Columbia.
in 1881. And then they also brought Jerry One's body from the other cemetery and put him here. So we know he's in grave number 12. We got 12 graves. He's in 12 and she's in 11. And then the other members of the family are here. We're not entirely sure which grave they're in. We know they're here, but we can't be precisely
Yeah.
sure which exact grave they're in.
Yeah.
But we know they're in this plot. And there may be a few more others in terms of babies who were here too.
Thank you, Dickie.
Now
That
this
was great.
area
That's amazing.
did not